Hi, everyone. Welcome to another live inspiring keynote. And this time we are with Maria Jesus, and she's going to say hi to you.
Hello from Spain. Scorching hot today. So I'm showing you my Spanish fan that I'm using just to be able to cope with the heat this afternoon in Madrid. Hello.
Well, it's really hot over here too, but we're going to go ahead and let you get your slides up. And while we're doing that, I'm going to tell you all more about how I met Maria Jesus. We actually started working together on a course, and she was the editor, and she was amazing. She gave me so many great ideas. Working with her was just spot on. It was just an incredible kind of relationship that we developed over Google Docs and emails, and then it became more. So then she became part of the 30 Goals Challenge, and she started also, anytime I ask her to present, she's always there as well. And the great thing is many times she's gotten her students to present with her. So let me tell you about her professionally. She's been an ESL teacher over the last 30 years at private centers. She has coordinated the multi-educational project for INTA. She's actually helped organize many different types of large courses, even could be considered MOOCs in a lot of. She's also is a blogger of ed tech. You can read her blog, Stop and Learn English. And she often does webinars now with IQ. And you can also see a lot of her student interaction in it. So it is rightly that she would have a keynote entitled My Students Are My Champions. So let me go ahead and let her inspire you.
Thank you very much, Shelley, for this warm welcome. For me, it is an honor. So I am truly thankful to you for the chance. It is an honor to be sharing with you this afternoon from Spain. And what I'd like to share is what I call a happy experience. It is the happy experience that I've gone through my teaching, but through my learning as well, while accomplishing some of the goals within the 30 Goals Challenge for educators. Specifically, what I'd like to tell you about this afternoon is 3 of these goals. Be someone's champion, plant a seed of belief, and support a movement. These 3 goals belong to cycle 6, which is a cycle we are accomplishing along this year, along 2015. And although for me, the achievements are more of my students, the credit goes to my students. And when they accomplish these 3 goals, they do not do it in one after the other, because for me the goals are very closely related. They are very strongly linked, and when you are on a goal-oriented work with students in lessons, and you are trying to achieve one goal, you are actually crafting other goals too, even though you don't notice sometimes. Sometimes you have not even noticed about that until the very, very end, when you come back to the whole goal achievement process in order maybe to reflect, obviously, and to improve in the future. It is at that moment when at least I have realized that there were more than 2 goals being accomplished at the same time. So that's another added value of the many added values that this challenge has. And it is that it kills 2 birds with a stone. But let's focus now on the first goal I'd like to talk to you about. Be someone's champion. I'd like to first tell you a story, the story of how we accomplished this goal together, my students and myself. And then I'd like you to make a question for you to answer a bit later on. But first things first, okay? First, the story. Let's see when this whole story started. It started, this actual goal started in 2014 when I met my first group of pre-service primary bilingual teachers at university in Madrid. And I presented them with a package of various challenging projects within which the goals were included. Of course, they accepted, and we started, first of all, twittering. We got our own hashtag at Twitter, and we started connecting that way with the 30 goals too. But there was one team in particular, out of the 8 teams working in the projects with the goals, there was one team in particular, encouraged by a very young, talented, enthusiastic pre-service teacher whose name was Billy. Billy was the leader of this team, and this team went on for a project they called the Book Me Library project. And within this Book Me Library project, they crafted a very sweet virtual library of books and stories for young teachers. This project was spread the word at Twitter, so they soon connected with several primary teachers in Spain and out of Spain who volunteered to apply the project in their own lessons, because my students didn't have any lessons, didn't have any real students. They were pre-service teachers. So that was the first time that some teachers were other teachers' champions. These primary teachers from Spain who volunteered to present the Book Me Library project to their real young learners were my students' champions. That was the first stage. So what these voluntary teachers did was twinning with them and presenting their own learners with the Book Me Library original storybooks. You've got the link at the bottom of the slideshow. In case later on you'd like to check the link, you've got the whole goal there for you to check. Later on, these came to be known as the timeline of an e-connected story. We called it the timeline of an e-connected story because we managed to get back awesome peer-to-peer feedback from what had happened with the original stories when applied into real lessons. And my team of students started spreading the word at virtual conferences, as Shelley was mentioning, and live sessions too. But of course, sorry, as every school year, this school year finished. It went by very, very quickly. It soon finished, and the team of pre-service teachers flew away to their actual classrooms, to their actual lessons, went into real teaching. But there was one pre-service teacher, Billy, who came back to me. I had always thought very high of him, and I had always thought he would be standing out very soon. And I thought, this guy is ready for the championship. And there was Billy. Now he is an inspiring teacher himself. He is ready to present, co-present at any live session, ready to spread the word, to connect. He is even creating his own virtual classes and courses. He's ready to support others. He's become a real mentor, in my opinion. And I was there, sitting back, happily viewing how he was growing up as a connected teacher himself. And he was coming up with new proposals to do his best at accompanying others. So when he came back to me and asked me if I could help him, I was, of course, ready to jump into the adventure. And so we started what we called the Edu Power of Blended Learning, which was a series of live sessions at WizIQ. It was a series of 3 virtual classes that Billy and I delivered in pairs between November and December 2014. And the aim of those lessons was to go through the advantages and drawbacks of blended learning with ICT, because that was our experience in the lessons we had together at the master's degree module, as we were only seeing each other face-to-face twice a week, and the rest was virtual. So that was blended learning. So we had the experience and we wanted to share it with the rest. Well, Billy was wanting to share it with the rest. And we showed a sample of blended learning using virtual classroom, collaborative blogging, teamwork. The live classes that we delivered and that you can visit whenever you like at WizIQ, because they are recorded there, were designed to for teachers who would like to gain confidence when going into blended or e-learning, or teachers who needed to give their virtual teaching a boost. That was our aim. A bit ambitious, I thought, to be the first time that my student was becoming a real presenter, but I think it went quite well. We covered a series of topics. We included tips, advice, resources to set up an online classroom. We proposed the attendants to craft some blended learning challenges. We showed our own experience, real examples of this type of teaching. And as I am mentioning it, the recordings are there in case you feel like hearing them. But for me, the most important thing was that these students of mine was really very relaxed, delivering educational pills he felt comfortable with, and he was keeping up casual conversation with the viewers, with the attendants, and he was inspiring for interaction. So if you have a look at those recordings, I think that might help you realize why I am so proud of this student of mine, the team he was leading, and well, the whole group of future bilingual students. And now it is the time for me to ask you the question that I promised at the beginning. After having a look at that goal and having listened how we have tried to accomplish the Be Someone's Champion goal, I am wondering, and I am asking you, who is the champion in this experience? Am I his champion, or is he my champion? Because honestly, I feel he is my champion. And that's why I've entitled this keynote as My Students Are My Champions. I think he is my champion rather than me being his. And the reason why is, well, obviously because of the growth and the improvement I've seen in these students, but also because I do think that our role as teachers is to let our students be our champions. And that way, I think that the way to do it is showing confidence in their intelligence and talent, motivate them, and foster their creativity and encourage them towards success. That's why I have placed those key words in the slide you've got in front of you in the screen. Because in the end, when your students succeed, it is our success as teachers too. And so our students are our champions. That's my feeling. I don't know if you share it with us, but I'm sure we will have time at the end of the keynote in case you want to ask something. The link to the whole experience is at the bottom there. It's at our blog, Stop and Learn English. And this is how we try to flip a little bit the goal that Shelley had proposed, Be Someone's Champion. We flipped it and we turned it into our students are our champions. I turned it into my students are my champions. And that is the first goal that I wanted to share with you today. But this goal is very, very closely linked to the next goal I'd like to share with you, which is plant a seed of belief. And I think they are very closely related, very well linked. Well, actually, I think it is Shelleys' success here to be able to propose this series of goals that you can mingle and mix when you achieve. You don't have to achieve goal after goal, but you can mix them, link them, relate them. And plant a seed of belief, I think it is very closely related to be someone's champion, as I was mentioning, because it is essential to believe in students, and it is essential to plant a seed in your students in order to be able to harvest, in order to be able to let them reach success and win the championship of learning, because that's the championship when you are in class to learn, to see them learn, to help them learn. And let's go now to focus on this tiny experience of how we accomplished the plant a seed of belief goal. Again, I'm going to tell you the story, and then I will leave a new question for you. The story again takes place at university with a new group of pre-service teachers from Madrid. But it is a new group because this time it's a new school year, the one that we started in February 2015. The new group was again attending a master's degree module on the use of ICT and web resources for primary bilingual education. Unfortunately for me, I am so lucky to teach potential primary bilingual educators twice a week, face-to-face, as I was telling you before. Well, you may have realized that by now. Anyway, but I guess that situation allows me to envisage if clear bilingual methodology in the classrooms is going to be just a name again in coming years in Spain, because that's my scope. And if we are actually taking the right steps to have real innovative content and language integrated learning teachers in the classrooms, and how we are actually going to accomplish that in the adequate way. That is, how we are training, and that's why training is the key word in this slide, how we are training clear teachers. If that training is turning them into real, innovative, enthusiastic educators who will be absolutely convinced that integrating content, language, ICT, project-based learning, and lots of pills of enthusiasm, that's what I call pills of enthusiasm, are the ingredients, are the seeds to cook a classroom, to harvest a classroom of bilingual students who will be ready to manage their lives in the real world in two languages, because the world nowadays is global and you must be able to face the world in more than one language, not only in Spanish, but in English or in any other languages. And from my point of view, that type of training is the only successful type of training, as well as the kind of training which will plant that seed of belief, which in the end will be a seed of change in this kind of lessons, in clear lessons. And so that is part of what I usually try to transmit, to pass on to my groups of pre-service primary bilingual educators every year. But this year, 2015, I've been very lucky again, very fortunate again, because at the very beginning of the master's module, only after 4 face-to-face lessons, approximately, when we were just getting to know each other, actually, both physically, face-to-face, and virtually, I discovered that I had another outstanding learner in whom I could plant that seed of belief, because she really deserved somebody to believe in her, and whose work actually deserved the seed to be planted. Her name is Marta. So I've got 2 now. I've got Billy and I've got Marta. She's got a Twitter handle as well that you can check in the link at the bottom of the slide, where the whole story is explained. And what I did in order to try and see if that seed of belief was in the right field was sending all the students into a learning mission. Again, following Shelleys' inspiration, I thought of sending them on a learning mission. And it was a very simple, brief, easy one to craft. I asked them to write a tiny story on Twitter tiny story, about what this kind, what CLIL, what content and language integrated learning means for teaching and learning. But it had to be a tiny story that allowed the reader's imagination to run with it. So I didn't really set very strict conditions. The only condition was twittering by learning, spread the word on Twitter with your tiny story using the hashtag, our common hashtag. But this lady, this young, talented girl, took a step ahead and went totally independently into the mission, became an autonomous learner straight away. And she summarized her own aspirations and opinions on CLIL teaching in an awesome clip, a video clip that she recorded with Video Scribe and that she later tweeted. But the important thing was not the digital artifact she produced, which was very good, and I do recommend you to go and into the link and try and view the digital artifact she came up with. But that's not, as I was telling you, the most important one. What's most important, in my opinion, was the preliminary work she was doing in class, face-to-face, and out of class. I must admit that I was observing there. That was my role, observer, and I was actually dumbfounded. I thought, oh gosh, this girl is good, because she went step by step, and I haven't really set any step-by-step instructions. She did not tweet whatever came to her mind, but she gave her tweet a thought or two. She thought twice. She reflected on this tiny story on CLIL that she wanted to share. She came up with an idea of how to do everything, and she scribbled the clip in a piece of paper. She created her own storyboard. And that is something that is not very common nowadays, because we all tend to go digitally straightforwardly, and we do not sometimes stop, sit, and try to think in a piece of paper what we want to take into the digital spaces. But she did. She scribbled the video clip in a piece of paper. She drafted her ideas in a piece of paper, which is published in the blog, because I took pictures with my iPhone while she was working. And then she recorded the clip, including her drawings that she turned digital with Inkscape. That was the tool she used. And finally, she uploaded the clip to YouTube and spread the news on Twitter. But on top of that, she kept on with her own impressions and reflections when describing her upload and her channel. And I thought that was actually brilliant. So again, after having played the role of an observer, at her job, because I was only observing, I am asking you the same question as in the previous experience. Who's the champion here again? And who's planted the seed of belief? Am I the champion? Have I, as a teacher, planted the seed, or has she? Or is she my champion? She is my champion. I've got that clear. That's my opinion. Marta is my champion again, because she has been able to go ahead from a tiny little learning mission and she has become an autonomous teacher herself. And she has planted the seed of belief in me as a teacher, because thanks to her job, I do believe that there is a future in educational innovation. And I do believe that talent, enthusiasm, and good intentions are lying there in promising young teachers like Marta, whose experience I've just shared with you, because I'm sure Marta will keep on inspiring all of us. And our role is to believe in them and to help them with training, to help them with their potential in those new skills that are needed in the 21st century. Because our students need new skills because they are coming out into a new world. And training is important, and that's our job as teachers, I think. Just believe and train, help and believe and train. And last but not least, we've got another goal that originally I was not going to mention. My original intention was only sharing Be Someone's Champion and Plant a Seed of Belief. But then I thought that I might just as well share how we are accomplishing the support of movement goal, because I think this goal is an underlying goal, which is there in every goal. And support a movement should be accomplished together with any of the other proposed goals in the 30 Goals Challenge for Educators. While you are sending your students on learning missions or asking them to craft activities, you are accomplishing this goal as well, or you should accomplish this goal as well. Because if we are not part of an educational movement and support that educational movement, or if we do not encourage our learners to connect with peers, I think we are not giving them the full picture. And that is why whenever I am carrying out any goal or accomplishing any goal-oriented practice, I always try to connect them with collaborative projects, such as the 30 Goals itself, or any other educational movements worldwide, as I do believe e-connections are essential. That's the quote I have under my Twitter bio, because I do believe in that. For me, it is essential to be an up-to-date, connected teacher who can bring learners close to the global world we are living in nowadays. I think professional networks of inspiring educators who are ready to work in collaboration, who are ready to share their ideas, who are ready to share their findings, who are willing to innovate together, that is the best movement to support, as well as the most nurturing environment for me and for one's own learners, because I think that's the way to find the right path in search of becoming globally connected citizens. Because after all, we are teachers, we are students, but above all, we are citizens, we are persons. And being part of a virtual community of persons worldwide, such as the 30 Goals Challenge for Educators, is an asset for one's teaching life, but not only in a professional way, but it is also an asset for one's personal life. Because when one feels part of connected movements, such as this one establishes personal links too. One establishes strong personal links, and that is above all the most important thing in my opinion. It is very emotional, rewarding relationships that you establish and that help you stay focused and keep going when education goes rough. And sometimes education goes rough. I'm sure you share that viewpoint. It does go rough sometimes, but you feel you've got somebody behind you that is supporting you because it's part of the movement. And that's why I am very proud to be part of this movement and a wide range of other collaborative movements in the world to support their members and to be supported by them, because that helps me stay connected, that helps me learn, be inspired by others' ideas, tips, pieces of advice, and especially this helps me feel their warmth, their proximity, their energy, and their generosity, like Shelleys' generosity. Even if they're actually based at the other end of the world, all these little logos that you can see in your screen at the bottom and on the right-hand side are the various projects, the various movements I support and that support me in my teaching and my learning. And I'm very proud to be part of all these. And this sometimes makes me wonder, this is the question that I make myself, that I make you in order to end very quickly, to see if you feel the same way. How come that I can find it so smooth to cooperate with somebody in San Antonio, Texas, for instance, like Shelley, or in Toronto, Canada, for instance, like Dr. Nelly Dutch, with whom I cooperate quite a lot too, or in Greece, or in Argentina, or in Hawaii, or Abu Dhabi, Venezuela, to name but a few. How come that I find it so smooth to cooperate with these people, and even sometimes I find it more smooth even to cooperate with these people in the other end of the world than with the people that sometimes sit next to me? For me, the answer is clearly the beauty of networked educational movements such as the 30 Goals. I can't find any other reasonable explanation, because if you come to think of it, it should be more difficult because of distance. But ICT is the beauty of it all. Sometimes you just connect with somebody, connect with somebody, the connection clicks for some reason, and you know those movements are your movements too. It is mutual, and it just works. So I do encourage you to join any movement, all the movements, be supported, support others, and become an e-connected teacher, become an e-connected learner, become an e-connected individual person. After all, you're bound to love them, I'm sure. Support your movement and get your students in the picture too. Make them e-connected learners. That way, you are also planting your seed of belief, and you are bound to become someone's champion, or maybe someone will become your champion. Why not? That is all. Now it is your time to sit back. If it is afternoon in your country, have a cup of coffee, or if it is late night, have your cuppa favorite drink, whatever, breakfast, relax, and think of which movement you'd like to support. Think of which goal you'd like to accomplish next school year with your own learners. Thank you very much for your attention.
Well, thank you for the wonderful, inspiring presentation. Many people had different comments and also a lot of questions. So we don't have time to answer all of them because we have to go to the next, but we will. I posted them in the side. But one of the questions, Mariana said she actually had tons of questions that she would ask you. later, but one of them was, how do you recognize potential in a student?
All students have potential, in my opinion. Every student has a potential. Every student has a talent. It's our job as teachers to bring that potential out and improve the potential. Everybody has a talent. It's just a question of believing in them and showing them that they have a talent and that they've got potential and that they can go for it.
And there's another question that came up as well that's really, I think a lot of people wonder this as well, is why do we find it so easy to collaborate with people from around the world and more challenging to collaborate with those in our own school sitting right beside us?
For me, as I told you, for me, it's just the beauty of networked communities. The beauty of ICT, the surprise, I'm always puzzled by that. How come that I can so easily collaborate with you? And I find it easier to collaborate with you than to organize an event like this one with my own peer teachers that sit next to me every day. Maybe it's because every day is more boring, more hectic. Maybe we don't have so much time to see how many things we might have in common because we are too absorbed in work. And that's why, I don't know, but for me, it just clicks, as I've told you. It just clicks and it works.
Well, thank you so much for inspiring us today. And I really like how you flipped it around and asked the audience questions, and also flipped it around and said how all of the goals, it was your students. And for me, I think, and many other teachers, like it's the same, where the students end up inspiring us.
Yeah.
So thank you so much, and I hope it gets much cooler for you in Spain.
I hope so. It's been my pleasure, Shelley. Thank you very much for everything, not only for today, but for everything.